think, Marge. All I need is a title.
A number of possible extinction events, but the Bible teaches that all land animals, including dinosaurs, were created on the sixth day of creation, just thousands of years ago, and they were all named by Adam just before God handed over his completed creation to Adam and Eve.
Except, as we've already stated in another video, there is no archaeological evidence for the existence of Adam, and there are only cultural references for the non-biblical evidence in the existence of Eve. Just because a graveyard in Saudi Arabia is named after her does not mean that the biblical Eve actually existed. And that just addresses the assertion made by the biblical story of Adam and Eve. It does not address the more general problems of believability of the Bible overall, or the so-called historical record contained within the Bible. Even if you throw out certain forms of radioactive carbon dating, there are other dating methods that continue to confirm that various prehistoric animals existed millions of years ago. Even some Christian church denominations have abandoned the idea that the historic account of Genesis, as it pertains to the age of the earth and the development of mankind, is accurate,
charging them to take dominion over his completed creation. Then, about 4,300 years ago, the entire world was deluged by Noah's flood, and the dinosaurs, along with billions of other creatures, were wiped out.
This assertion is wrong as well. We have no geological evidence that a worldwide flood happened. The fossil record does not show all of the dinosaurs being killed within the space of a month and a half, but rather over a long period of time. Archaeology does not support the existence of Noah, but people interested in this field believe that the flood story was lifted almost entirely from Babylonian legends about the flooding of the Iraqi floodplain. The story of the Great Worldwide Flood is an example of early Jewish Me Tooism, where they set about creating a backstory for Yahweh and why they should worship him.
Let's take a quick look at some evidences that show that the biblical account might actually be true. First, dinosaurs are cleverly designed. Consider this Triceratops. Its 2,000-pound head is mounted in a way that allows it to turn every which way, yet still be strong enough to ram something, even while running. What about massive sauropods with weight-bearing systems from hip to toe that allow its 200,000-pound body to even walk, and neck vertebrae that are 90% filled with air so it can lift up its head?
Just because something looks like it was designed does not mean that it was. Believers like to point to something like these examples and pencil in God as the overall designer, and since he designed dinosaurs, and they were simply animals, how much more awesome is a creation designed after his own image? The problem is that these same people also believe that the planet was created roughly 6,000 years ago. In reality, there is ample evidence suggesting that the age of the Earth is somewhere between 3 and 4 billion years old. Because of this, the numbers change in such a way that the simple laws of probability suggest that dinosaurs could have evolved the way they did because there was enough time for them to do so. Nature and natural selection had enough chances to get it right that they did get it right. Humans began their development roughly 2.8 million years ago, which also explains how natural selection gradually changed us as a species until we have what we are today, because nature, again, has had 2.8 million chances to breed in positive traits that have been passed on, as well as a whole lot of genes that do nothing but clutter up our genetics. If mankind was designed by an all-powerful creator, then he did a piss-poor job of it. In fact, a 2009 study from researchers at Penn State concluded that the male Y chromosome in humans was being damaged at such a rate that it would disappear within a few million years. Does this sound like something that was created by an all-powerful being that created us in his image? However, before we start bemoaning the eventual extinction of humanity, a 2014 study published in PLOS Genetics determined that natural selection is maintaining the genes on the Y chromosomes, so that it is not in danger of dying out.
Next, there's the absence of dinosaur ancestors and transitions. Even the Chicago Field Museum sign admits there have been 0 transitions between dinosaur kinds. It shows question marks regarding where they came from. It's almost like someone just put each basic kind on Earth right at the same time.
Except that we have all kinds of examples of transitional species in the fossil record. A simple Google search brings up the most basics of the transitional species, the Archaeopteryx, a complete specimen of which was discovered in 1861. Since that time, more Archaeopteryx fossils have been found, and scientific research discovered that the Anchiornis, a feathered dinosaur, was around roughly 150 million years ago, and that's just one example. The larger problem I have with this video is that it was presented to me so glibly, with Pastor Todd writing, "Hard to refute, eh?" No! In fact, it's been fucking easy to refute, just with generic Google and Wikipedia, and I have only used information that I know other people, such as Aaron Ra, would be able to back me up on, and they would have, and have, presented other specimens of transitional species. It has gotten to the point that only those Christians who take the Bible as the literal Word of God still cling to the six-day creation and the idea that God simply popped all of the flora and fauna on the planet from his ass. Most other Christians, and virtually all sane non-theists, believe that some form of evolution is taking place.
There are even dinosaur design features that show they lived in the ideal pre-flood world. Sauropods can exceed 200,000 pounds, yet they have tiny nostrils for breathing. Pterodactyls may have been too heavy to fly in today's atmosphere. Same with huge pre-flood dragonflies. The fossil record is filled with giant creatures and plants. We know this because there are billions of dead things buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the Earth.
Okay, so you admit that natural forces such as the climate can affect how creatures can develop, such as a warmer climate with more oxygen in the atmosphere can produce creatures that are larger than what we see today. But you'd scoff at the idea of an asteroid impact that we have evidence for in the geological record off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, throwing up enough dust to cause a natural version of a nuclear winter. That climate change is what killed out the dinosaurs, roughly 65 million years ago. Please note that with the dinosaurs being wiped out 65 million years ago, and humans only becoming a species roughly 2.8 million years ago, there is no way that humans could have lived with the dinosaurs. That idea remains where it belongs, in the world of Hollywood fantasy.
And when we look at the dinosaur fossil record, we see that they were buried furiously, rapidly, and simultaneously, oftentimes found fleeing in groups. Take this massive bone bed in Hilda, Canada. Thousands of centrosaurs were catastrophically buried over an entire square mile. Or this one in China, where thousands of different kinds of dinosaurs were simultaneously buried in a single 980-foot long ravine. There are hundreds of dinosaur bone beds all over the world, including the US, where the Morrison Formation covers 13 states and 700,000 square miles. Thousands of torn-apart dinosaurs are buried here in hundreds of mass graves, with many found in the classic death pose with their necks arched back, choking as they died.
A worldwide flood is not the only thing that would make a bunch of animals, such as the dinosaurs, run for their lives. Check this out. As the video depicts, the dust and soot from the impact of the asteroid remains in the atmosphere for up to 5 years. If you don't believe this, I point out that the eruption of the Krakatoa volcano in August of 1883 put out enough ash to cause a mild form of global cooling for over a year. Ejecta from the volcano got out as far as 20 miles into the atmosphere. The loudest explosion from the eruption was measured at 180 decibels at 100 miles away. An asteroid impact, like the one that happened off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, would do a lot more. As the video clip pointed out, the sunlight would be mostly gone for a period of months, if not years. As soon as the dinosaurs would start dying of hunger, they would start laying down material for an eventualized fossil or rock layer. Such an event happening over the course of a few months, or up to 3 years, would have the effects you're describing, because roughly 70% of everything on the planet died out in an extinction event. I'll put a link to a very good explanation of the asteroid impact that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. Basically, the dinosaurs were burned alive as the atmosphere around the globe was superheated to a temperature of roughly 1,200 degrees. This would also account for some of the posing that you saw in the fossils.
Museum signs everywhere even admit they died in a watery catastrophe. Some dinosaurs are even found mummified, with tree leaves, flowers, ferns, shrubs, and algae still in their stomach.
A flash fire might do exactly this sort of thing. You have provided no evidence that the dinosaurs died because of a giant global flood, but real scientists have provided us ample evidence that they might have died because of the literal baking of the atmosphere.
Dinosaurs are even found buried with marine creatures. Isn't a global flood the best explanation for this? Scientists have been discovering soft tissue in dinosaur bones. They describe blood cells, blood vessels, connective tissue, and even collagen, which has a maximum shelf life of about 900,000 years at 40 degrees. With a maximum shelf life of less than 1 million years, what's collagen doing in dinosaur bones that are supposedly 65 million years old? Many dinosaur bones are even found unfossilized in places like Madagascar, Alaska, and Montana. Does this evidence seem to support the Bible's recent and violent flood, or evolution stories? Kinda makes you think, doesn't it? Find out more by ordering our dinosaur book at genesisapologetics.com.
I find it interesting that paleontologist Mary Schweitzer, the theist scientist who discovered bone marrow in a fossil, has criticized the theists who have taken her discovery and run off the face of the planet with it, saying that it disproves the notion of an ancient Earth. Schweitzer disagrees, saying that she discovered collagen in the bone, not blood, and that young Earth creationists have made it their duty to misrepresent her work.